Well, hi everyone, 8:01 here on this Saturday night, January 24th. Our weather impact alert continues in the update here as we head into the second half of the night and the overnight hours is that round two of this storm has started and it's going to be heavier and more intense and last a little bit longer than what we saw earlier today. And earlier today was bad enough in Cherokee County. Commissioner Kelly Traylor sharing these photos with us at CBS19. You can see some of the heavy ice on the tree limbs and branches brought those branches down, cracked those trees, and they've had several thousand people without power. Then up in Minden, Texas, Amy Jackson sharing this photo with us, and you can see what the ice was doing to the trees, accumulating on those tree branches, making those tree limbs bend over, and they've lost some power. In fact, she reports she lost power at 8 o'clock this morning. No word yet if she's got it back on yet. Email your weather pics to CBS19@.tv. All right, Steve Jackson, Tyler sending in some sleet on the road and the streets earlier today and on the rooftops. That was a common occurrence. And Ross Hayes in Emerald Bay also showing us the sleet that had accumulated earlier. We've had a mix of sleet. It went back to freezing rain. Some of that melted this afternoon. We just had another round of sleet and freezing rain move back in. Temperatures are down to 22 in Gilmer. We're seeing a sleet, maybe snow mix there. Longview, it looks like it's sleet and freezing rain mixing. Carthage, some freezing rain. Back here in Tyler, it looks like it's trying to take a little bit of a break. Crockett's down to 32 degrees now. Nacogdoches back down below freezing. So anywhere that the temperatures are falling into the mid-20s, the road surfaces are also cooling. We're starting to hear reports of accidents around the area. I'm monitoring our Facebook page, so if you have any questions, please share those or pictures that you might have from the storm tonight. Share those on our Facebook page. We'll try to get those on CBS 19 News coming up tonight at 10 o'clock. I'll pause just for a moment to thank everyone for watching us on our YouTube channel, on our CBS 19 stream, and of course on our Facebook page. If you want to share the Facebook page, go ahead and do that. If you want someone to find out more about the storm tonight, also likewise on the YouTube channel, you can sign up and subscribe, and the CBS 19 stream. If you know someone that doesn't have the CBS 19 app, you can go ahead and download that app. And when you have situations like this, if you were to lose power, you can still follow along in the coverage by having the app. All right, I'm going to widen it out just a little bit, put it into motion for you, and you can generally see what's happening here. We're seeing an increase in the precipitation out to the west of I-35 near Waco, near Dallas. In fact, snow and sleet is increasing in Dallas off to the northwest. For us, increasing moisture from Marshall up to Jefferson as the temperature drops. This is an area here that could pick up a quick 1/10 of an inch of sleet and freezing rain. And down to the southwest, it's a little bit lighter, but there are pockets that continue to increase again. And I think as we go through the rest of the night, there it is. That is the big part of number 2 that'll push in here between Austin and Dallas and then eventually into East Texas. That's likely going to move in around 11 o'clock tonight and be with us during the overnight hours. And this is why we were concerned about power outages becoming more, or I guess increasing greatly in the overnight hours into Sunday morning. This is when we had the biggest threat. Now, if all of this is sleet doesn't stick to the power lines, doesn't stick to the tree limbs, and so it should not weigh those tree limbs down or those power lines down. If it remains sleet, it'll cause the roadways to be treacherous. But if that can stay sleet and not mix with freezing rain, it would certainly be somewhat of a disguised blessing. We'd still wake up with just sleet all over the ground, maybe 1 or even 2 inches of sleet. Some of the computer data tried to point or pick out about 3 inches of sleet out of this storm system, and most of that was going to be late tonight and early Sunday morning. We'll see. The air here is just slightly warmer. I'm going to show you what we call an atmospheric sounding and why we're kind of concerned that even though we see sleet out at Abilene and Austin, by the time that moisture gets to East Texas, it could become freezing rain. And here is why. You probably have heard us talk about the National Weather Service releasing weather balloons. And in the Shreveport office, they do it twice a day. Today, they've released 3 or launched 3 weather balloons. And so what do those weather balloons do? At the tail end of that weather balloon, they tie on something called a radiosonde, right? That radiosonde has an instrument that measures atmospheric pressure, winds, humidity, temperature, right? It's launched up into the atmosphere. The higher it goes, it radio or transmits back information to a computer that is then used to enter that data in to make forecasts, but it's also a way that we can get a snapshot of what the atmosphere is doing. So I bring that up because as we look at this sounding here, when it was launched at 6 o'clock tonight, the air temperature was below freezing, probably in that 26, 25 degree range, and the balloon launched straight up, and so the temperature did not move. Then when it got to about 3,000 feet, look what the air temperature did. Right there between about 2,500 and 3,000 feet, there is a wedge of extremely warm air. It's called a nose of warm air. Doesn't it look like a nose? I mean, you're talking about a pronounced nose. If I put nostrils right there, you'd really be able to see it. Once it got to that level at about 3,000 feet, it stayed at about 50 degrees until it got to around 5,000 feet, and then it started to cool rapidly till we got here to about 10,000, maybe 15,000 feet up, and then we got back to freezing. So snowflakes, ice pellets here, falling through that layer, melting to raindrops, and then in that final 3,000 feet, these raindrops are trying to refreeze. The air temperature at 26 degrees, in some instances, it will refreeze, but the concern here is that there's not enough of a layer for the refreezing to happen, and that the raindrops will hit the ground as rain, and then with an air temperature or a surface temperature of 26 degrees, it will freeze on contact. So that's a way to look at the forecast, a look at an atmospheric sounding, and make a prediction or a forecast based on what we're seeing, based on some of the atmospheric modeling. All right, 7 comments here, lots of folks watching. All right, let me get the volume down on this so we can, I can, oops, you're going to hear me talking over myself here. All right. Comments here, lots of folks watching. All right, sorry about that. Nope. hit my iPhone and everything went to a heck in a handbasket. All right, so what are we looking at? Okay. Sorry, gang. Well, somebody wants to know about Wood County. Will it sleet in Palestine after midnight? What about, there's sleet currently in Longview. Yes, on radar we're seeing that. Wants to know about White House. We're also looking at questioning about raining crystals in New. This is an interesting comment. Raining crystals in, well, no, I'm not going to be able to see that. We'll leave that as is, and I'll try to fix that here in just a second. Let's get back to the radar and the satellite. This is what happens when you try to help folks out and give you some answers here. So we had reports of sleet over in Longview. Yes, certainly so here in the purple areas, right? We've got sleet and freezing rain in Henderson and Carthage, that little bit of a break. But what I more importantly wanted to show you was that wall of moisture that's back to the west that is headed in our direction. And that wall of moisture will arrive later on tonight. It should arrive, at least it looks like sleet right now, but I showed you the atmospheric sounding because the air temperature is very warm aloft. And so as it's very warm aloft, what ends up happening is that we begin to see those ice crystals start out as snowflakes and then or raindrops, and then by the time they get down to the surface, they just remain raindrops. And with the air temperature at 26 degrees, or the surface temperature at 26 degrees, then we start to see freezing on the roadways. You can see the ice accumulating on this wire here. It's also accumulated, especially on pine trees. The rain will stick to that pine tree and freeze. You can see the icicles right here across this traffic or light stanchion as it spreads across the street. The streets right now just look wet. I'd be very careful driving tonight just because the street temperatures are going to drop, even though they've kind of lagged behind the air temperature. The air temperature's been running roughly at about 26, 27 degrees, and then we start to see there's a car turning around. Looks like he's doing okay there. All right, so they want to know about Palestine. We'll try to answer Palestine in just a second. Winsboro South, Franklin County. Also, we've got, well, it looks like the little crystals, and yes, that's kind of pretty. So maybe a few snowflakes are mixing in some areas. About Henderson, we've got Rusk, a lot of folks watching. So I appreciate everybody who's tuning in here tonight. We'll try to give you, let me go back one graphic or two and kind of break down everything for us. So what's going to happen in Henderson? Well, at Henderson, you're going to see sleet and freezing rain mixing later tonight. I think it's going to be pretty much the entire story for everyone. Palestine, the temperature's finally down to 29. Let's watch out for icy areas to develop there. We come up here to Winsboro, South Franklin County, 26 degrees to 25, even colder than that right now. And so look for anything that's liquid to start to freeze up pretty solid. We're still seeing reports of sleet and snow, at least on the radar. The radar, so this is what the radar uses, an algorithm or a mathematical equation to look into what it's seeing, measuring the temperature, measuring the reflectivity of the radar, and then it comes up with its best guess as to what this type of precipitation is. The ground truth, what you guys see and what you can report back to us, is so important. That's why when folks are saying, oh, I'm getting sleet in Longview, I'm getting something in Marshall, that is critical, viable ground truth information that we love, and we need to use that so that we can kind of get folks a more accurate forecast here. So I'm going to walk through a future skycast in just a second, but I just wanted to show you again that big area of frozen precipitation. And if you're just tuning in, the reason why we think it'll be mainly freezing rain tonight is because at about 3,000 feet off the surface, so here it's very cold, it's 23, 24, 25, 26 degrees. If we went up 3,000 feet in the atmosphere, the temperature is 50 degrees. So that's rain, and as those raindrops fall, they only have about 3,000 feet of air to freeze into a sleet pellet. If they can't make it, they hit the surface, and then they freeze up as ice. So that's just catching everybody up to date where we are. And again, you can see the little icicles that have been forming as the rain has been falling. 28 degrees right now at Tyler Pounds. The dew points are in the mid-20s. So that tells us that the temperature can drop to as low as 24 tonight. That's an important number because the farther we fall, the colder it gets, and the more things will get a little bit on the frozen side. That northeast wind at 9 miles an hour is also a little concerning. Wind can sometimes cause those tree branches to move. They're already laden with ice and weakened by the ice, and they can break. All right, yes, Melody West says it looks like crystals, but yes, it's ice, but kind of pretty. It can be, but it can also be kind of destructive. Sabrina, one thing to know about Mineola. Mineola, like everyone, will see a mixture of sleet and freezing rain overnight. Sleeting in Ore City, says Vicki Lynn. And Winsboro, we talked to Christopher about what he was seeing there. In White Oak, Lacey Walker, same. I think we're going to see that mixture of freezing rain and or sleet. All right, so the ice storm warning continues. Nothing's changed here. This is in effect until Sunday evening. That doesn't mean we're going to see freezing rain and sleet through Sunday at 6 p.m., but it does mean that we could have icy roadways, ice on power lines and tree limbs through the afternoon, and as a result, you could still start to see some, let's say, post-storm residual impacts from the ice on traffic and or power outages. But anywhere from Van Zandt County over here to Harrison County, southeast into deep East Texas, and westward into Houston, Texas, Houston County, Texas, I should say. The whole area under an ice storm warning, meaning we could still see 1/4 of an inch of freezing rain and sleet accumulation up to 1/2 inch, and there might be isolated areas when this is said and done that see 3/4 of an inch of ice accumulation. And we may have already gotten close to that in parts of Cherokee and Rusk County, where we've seen some damage to trees and power lines. Winter storm warning to the north, areas in pink through noon Sunday. The storm is expected to end here sooner in the day as sleet and maybe some light snow. And on radar, we've been looking at the snow. All right, so here's what it looks like now. This is Future Skycast. I think this is modeled fairly well because of that one band that's moved north of Interstate 20, causing quite a bit of sleet and freezing rain in the Longview areas up toward Linden and then back west toward Sulphur Springs. And then over deep East Texas, it looks a little bit lighter. So there's that little lull again, maybe about 8:30 to 10 o'clock. Then we get to 11 o'clock, and here comes the biggest part of round two. This is going to be steady. This could be heavy at times. And as temperatures dip to around 24, down to around 29 or 31, there's a better chance to see sleet mix in Mineola, Gilmer, and Mount Pleasant, maybe down as far south as Tyler and Henderson, and more of a chance for freezing rain the farther south you go. So that's 11:45. I'll move forward in time to 1:45. And so now we've had about 2 to 3 straight hours of moderate to almost heavy freezing rain and sleet. So 2 consecutive hours, and we're still not done with the storm yet. We work our way forward to 3 a.m., starting to come to an end in Smith County and Cherokee County, but still persisting over in Gregg County and in Rusk County and into Panola and Shelby County and down into southern Cherokee County, Rusk and Alto, down toward Angelina County and Nacogdoches. So now you're talking about almost 3 to 4 hours of consistent freezing rain and sleet, and in Deep East Texas, it takes until 4:30 to get rid of it. And then Sunday, some snow showers. But look at these temperatures. Frozen solid is what we're looking at. By Sunday morning, temperatures down to 18 in Tyler, 29 still at Center, 27 at Nacogdoches. But the cold air like that prompts that extreme cold warning that goes into effect tomorrow night and lasts until Tuesday at noon. Why? Because Monday morning we could see wind chill values close to 0. Monday afternoon, a high does not reach freezing, and then Tuesday morning we're back down into the teens once again. So extreme cold warning in place once the moisture ends. Any snow for Tyler, Remedy wants to know. Very little, if any. Maybe a few snow showers as everything is winding down tomorrow. Palestine, Bud, Christie, Reed want to know about Palestine. I think you're going to get some freezing rain and sleet overnight. Let's hope most of it is sleet. Beth Weathers, Marvin, swear I see snow now south of Jacksonville. It's possible, or it's just it's such light freezing drizzle that it appears as snowflakes. But yeah, let me know if you kind of stick your arm out, maybe if you have a black jacket on, see if you're seeing any actual snow grains or the shape of snowflakes, and then let us know. Athens, Linda, you're talking about a period of 2 or 3 hours tonight, maybe 3 to 4 hours of freezing rain and sleet. Quitman, same story there. Caitlin in Palestine, it's the same story. Karen Chavez in Jacksonville, you're getting the same kind of story here. We're looking at freezing rain, sleet, and maybe a little bit of snow mixing in. I'm trying to go back here so we can back up. And let me start Future Skycast again. We get so many questions here. I'll try to answer as much as I can. But just look at the entire area and just pick out your city, pick out your temperature, and I'll try to walk through this as slow as possible. For instance, I can go about 8 to 11:45. In fact, let me see if I can walk that back just a little bit so that we got kind of more of a slower play here with these temperatures. So I started at about 8 o'clock where we are now. It looks like 9:30. There's not a lot going on, but then everything increases at about 10 to 11 o'clock, and then we're in it from 11 o'clock onward. Just pick out your city. So Tyler, Longview, if you're in the pink, you're seeing freezing rain and sleet. Kind of hard to tell right now the type of precipitation it will be, but looking at the atmospheric sounding that I showed you earlier, there's probably a better chance that most of this falls as freezing rain or freezing drizzle. 1 o'clock in the morning, solidly in the whole area is in a steady period of freezing rain and sleet. By 2 a.m., more of the same. Still the whole area in freezing rain and sleet. At 3 a.m., we're still looking at most of the area in freezing rain and sleet while you're sleeping. Now, power outages could start to occur. You might lose power in the middle of the night. The furnace may be running and then kick off. Hopefully not. You may start to hear maybe some tree limbs breaking if it accumulates on tree limbs. And that is an eerie booming sound when those limbs break and fall, especially in ice storms like this. And then 4 a.m., it's part over Deep East Texas, and then it exits and moves on out, and we remain cloudy. And very, very cold. So hopefully I was able to walk everybody through where they live and what they were seeing there. Snow, sleet mix in Palestine, according to Michael. Thank you very much. Snow, ice, and sleet, 64 eastbound after Lake Tyler. Bridge is pretty bad. Be careful. Sergio, thank you so much for that information. Is Gilmer going to get any snow? Gilmer has a better chance to see snow than some other areas. Brandon wants to know if this storm is underperforming for East Texas right now. No, I wouldn't say that at all. I would say that we still have overnight tonight to go, and if we have our ice totals that we talked about, anywhere from 1/4 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch, and already in parts of, it depends on where you live, because Rusk County and Cherokee County will tell you that this storm has not underperformed one bit at all. If you live in parts of Smith County, you may not have seen a lot of precipitation yet, but again, the storm is not over. As I just walked you through everything here, we're going to see our heaviest and steadiest round of precipitation coming in overnight tonight. I think maybe the only surprise here with this storm today was the fact that during that lull, instead of the temperatures remaining steady at about 26 or 27, we actually warmed back up to 31 degrees, and I think that's due in part to that really warm layer of air aloft. Just 3,000 feet off the surface, it's 50 degrees. Some of that air can mix back down to the surface and raise the temperature from where it should have been at 26 back up to around 30 or 31. That did help melt some of the accumulated ice off of fences and poles and pergolas and tree limbs and things of that nature. Extreme cold warning Monday morning. Look at these below zero wind chill values at Emory and at Sulphur Springs, and also over Longview and Henderson, Carthage, down to Lufkin. You're talking about single-digit wind chill values. So tonight, freezing rain at 11 o'clock, freezing rain at 4 a.m., and then just cloudy, but temperatures down to 21 by 8 a.m. So it has been a storm to remember, and it is not over yet. I'm going to go back to the top, walk us through radar one more time, just in case someone is just joining us, and I want to get everybody caught up to date. I'm trying to answer as many questions about your cities where you live. I think our computer modeling data here tonight is doing a pretty good job considering what we see on the radar. It is the computer model I just showed you showed this area here having a pretty solid area of precipitation, with more precipitation moving back into the west and maybe a little hour where things kind of taper to a drizzle. But right now it's doing pretty well handling what is happening here imminently. All right. Thank you for the update. You are welcome. Mountain Enterprise, no power since 8 a.m. I'm so sorry, Kathy Jo. Hopefully they can get it back on real soon. Bullard, Sherry Matz wants to know about Bullard. I think Bullard, like the rest of Cherokee County, has that. Everybody, no matter where you live tonight, you're going to have a period, and it's going to last for a few hours of sleet and freezing rain. And we're hearing that, a lot of reports of that. Chance wants to know about Palestine, same as everywhere. I don't think anybody, the only thing that differs here is your rate. How hard is the freezing rain coming down? How hard does it sleet? What is your total sleet amount? What is your total freezing rain amount? But everybody will get into the freezing rain and sleet before the night is said and done, before tomorrow, before daybreak. In fact, every time we get a little wave or a little break, you see a little more forming. That one's racing back into Jacksonville and into Crockett. And Crockett's sitting right there at the freezing mark. Nacogdoches is back down below freezing. Now that the sun has set, I do not think we are going to watch the temperatures rise like they did this afternoon. So we had fallen below freezing at Lufkin and then warmed back above freezing at Lufkin. But look at Dallas and Waco, 21 in Dallas, 23 at Waco. So there's very cold air that is now, the winds aloft have turned more northwesterly. They were northeasterly today, and they battled what we call the Ouachita Wall. So the Ouachita Mountains, Kiowa Mountains, Ouachita is over southwest Arkansas, Kiowa's here in southeastern Oklahoma. They extend up to about 2,300 feet. The air mass itself, its depth was only about 1,500 to 1,800 feet, maybe right at 2,300 in some places. And so that cold air just kind of oozed over top of those mountains and found its way down into East Texas with the winds out of the northeast. But now the winds are more oriented more north to northwest, and so now you're seeing the cold air pushing all the way down to Longview and Tyler to Jacksonville even, and that should continue the rest of the night. And with this wall of precipitation coming in, again, the question, the colder air is out here west of Dallas toward Abilene and San Angelo. There is the warm nose of air right here over East Texas. So we do have questions of whether or not this remains sleet and snow, or does it become freezing rain as it moves into East Texas. There's a chance here that this precipitation, if the rate is high enough, when snow falls, evaporation is a cooling process. So some of this will naturally evaporate, and so it could cool the layer of air enough to where the raindrops have a chance to become snowflakes and or sleet pellets before they reach the surface. So that whole dynamic situation could come together, those processes which you can't even see on a computer model. You just have to look at the radar and kind of discern what's happening at the time. So that is why we'll call this nowcasting from this point forward. We're going to really have to just watch to see how it plays out. But we have to put out the possibilities of seeing freezing rain, any order of a ½ inch to maybe 3/4 of an inch, or sleet that may amount to 1 to 2 inches of sleet. So that's both are very real possibilities. And again, look at this warm nose of air, right? That warm nose, temperatures about 3,000, 3,500 feet, 50 degrees. It's mild there. But at the surface, the temperature is closer to 26. So that wet raindrop falls through that little thin area of cold air, and what does it do when it gets to the surface? Is it a sleet pellet? Has it had enough time to refreeze back into a sleet pellet, or does it fall to the ground, hit the street? The temperature on the street's 26, 27 degrees, and it freezes on contact. Right now we're at 28, just cloudy skies at Tyler Pounds with the ice storm warning continuing. I'm going to go up here till about 8:30, and then we'll take another break. So please hang with us on the Facebook page. Again, you can share this out over the Facebook page to let everybody know, but we'll walk you through this one more time on Future Skycast. This is going to be right now what's happening, and it really does reflect what we see on radar. Let me go back here. Let's see. Oh, somebody's asking about Tyler ISD. I have no idea. I don't make the rules when closing school. The snow is coming down in Dallas, Texas. Yes, it is. It is snowing a lot in Dallas. What are y'all talking about in the comments about next Friday? Oh, Sable, there was a chance. Some of the data tries to bring in a little rain, snow chance Friday night and Saturday morning. The data's been flip-flopping on that. I would not latch on to anything there. It may rain, but temperatures may end up close to 50 degrees by Friday. What about school closures Monday and or Tuesday? The best I can tell you there, Adrian, is to keep checking back on our website. There's a little, I think, bus icon on our website, and if you click on that, it'll give you a list of school closings. We've only heard of maybe a half dozen or maybe 10 school closings across the entire area at this time. No lights in Alto as of 8 a.m. Elsie, I hope the lights come back on real soon. I know it cannot be very comfortable with what's happening and more on the way. Are we going to get more tonight in Rusk? Yes, Pam, you will get more tonight of freezing rain and sleet that'll come back in here. All right, so let's play this out for us. Future Skycast, and again, the worst of this whole storm, believe it or not, is overnight tonight in terms of the scope, in terms of the intensity, in terms of the duration. We've got about 4 hours of sleet and freezing rain to work through here across East Texas as we head through the overnight hours. This is 3 a.m. We're still in it. At 4 o'clock, we're still in it. This is new data that this map just updated because it now has that last slug of sleet coming through here, or freezing rain at about 8:30 with snow showers, which is what we thought all along, moving along Interstate 30, then followed by that extreme cold warning. So that's where it stands right now. We're going to be on at CBS 19 News at 10 with a live update. We'll have live radar and Future Skycast now updated. This just updated. New information here, keeping us in this thick sleet, freezing rain game right on through 2 a.m. I hesitate to show you ice totals because they just change. But if I told you a range, 1/4 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch of freezing rain possible, where and if there's freezing rain. The sleet game is a different story. It could be 1 or 2 inches of sleet. Sleet's just like a slushy snow. That does not cling to power lines and tree limbs like freezing rain does. So let's hope for the sleet. Again, this goes on now till about 7:30, and then finally it moves on out with cloudy skies. Guys, thank you so much for watching us tonight on our CBS 19 Plus stream and on our Facebook page and on our Facebook page. Please share the Facebook information if you'd like. Kathy says it doesn't look like a lot in Diana, Texas, but more is on the way. And then a great question, Sonny. Wonder how this far sets back crawfish season. We'll have to look into that on the news side. And Rob Williams wants to know if we're not going to get 2 days of power outages. Me too. Me too. I know it's probably freezing. But thank you guys very much for watching tonight and sharing your information with us. You can see we were streaming that information. We put that back up, and then I'll let you know where you can get more information, of course, on CBS19.tv. We're streaming our newscasts tomorrow morning. We'll be on from 8 to 9:30 in place of CBS Sunday Morning. Our weather coverage is also on our app at CBS 19 Plus on the Facebook page and on the YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching. Please be safe tonight. We'll see you back here at 10 o'clock for CBS 19 News at 10.